Alright everyone, I'm working on the lighting for the TIE Fighter. I figured out last night that I need 68 ohm resistors at 3 volts for the red LEDs and the orange and the yellow. I went and bought some 68 ohm resistors. Now, I don't want to wait on eBay, which for the same price I paid for these, I could have gotten like 300 of them on eBay. It's neither here nor there. I got some, they're half watt. They didn't have the quarter-watt ones in this size. They were out of them. And the 1/8 watt I didn't even look at. That would be too small. They're huge compared to the quarter-watt. So what I'm doing, I don't really want to deal with a huge resistor in this thing. This thing's tiny. Look at the size of those resistors. They're going to be harder to hide. So what I did is I put them on my breadboard over here. I'm going to move the camera, and then we're going to zoom in, and I'm going to show you guys something. Hopefully the camera is going to zoom exactly where I want it to. Looks like it is. Okay, that's probably enough of a zoom. Let me get the power on. Yep, they're right here. This is 100 watt, the half watt. This is a quarter watt. This is a 68 ohm. This is 100 ohm. Bugger me if I can tell the difference in the brightness. It's tiny bit different. So little that I'm just going to go with the smaller resistors, even though they're a higher resistance. I kind of figured it was going to do that, but I wanted to test and make sure. Another reason to go with the higher resistance, what if I get some batteries in there? They're a little bit more energetic and putting out more than 1.5 volts. Maybe they're putting out 1.6. Well, the 100 ohm resistor is going to protect against that better than the 68 ohm resistor will. So there's a couple of reasons to go with the 100 ohm resistor. I got it worked out. These are the two LEDs that are going to go in there. They are facing down right now instead of up because the wire's already been around to go inside the model. So I'm not going to use the 68 ohm resistor. That's not happening. I'll put this back in that package wherever I put it. Right there. And I'll put this in my resistance piles. Okay. But I'm going to go ahead and use the 100 ohm resistors. I've got 4 of them. I've got 4 LEDs. I've got the exact number I need for right now. I think I've got more 100 ohm resistors laying around than that. If not, these can be bought easily, because I'm going to need 4 more later. Anyhow, let me get going on this. Well, if I do that, I won't. I'll figure it out. I'm thinking about the stand right now. What color I want to light up the stand, the base for this thing. Let me get going on these. The last thing I'm going to show you is how I bent the wires on this. Okay, the top of the LED is here, and you can see the wires are bent around the side of the LED because they have to go in the arm like this with the light facing downwards. Okay, so they're going to have to go in there like that and then go all the way back to that one point right there. They cannot go past the slot because there's a part that goes across back there. They can butt up to it, but they can't go past it. So I'm going to start cutting the arms on these and putting on resistors. Now, one thing about resistors, it does not matter which end you put the resistor on, the positive end or the negative end. I don't care what anyone says, it doesn't matter which end it goes on. Okay? And I'm going to dispel a popular myth about LEDs real quick. Some people say it stresses the LED to allow the voltage to go below a certain point. And then they say that's because the LED starts flickering on and off. It doesn't flicker on and off. Alright? The fundamental principle behind how an LED emits light, I'm going to go physics on you guys for a second because I teach this. Okay? Is when you put a voltage across the material the LED is made out of, you're exciting the electrons. You're giving the electrons energy. The electrons are following a certain orbital path. When they get that energy, they go to an outer path. They're moving outwards away from the center of the atom. Well, they don't like being out there. They like being close to that positive core, okay? Not away from it, because electrons are negative, positive and negative. They try to get together, just like men and women try to get together, okay? And they don't like being away from their women, so they dump the energy in form of light to get back in. And then the voltage is still there, so it jumps them back out. They dump the energy to get back in. So it's a constant process of moving in and out. And while they're moving in and out, they're throwing off energy. Well, when the voltage drops, you're feeding them less energy, so fewer of the electrons are getting out. That's why it dims down. Not as many electrons are excited and throwing off light. Okay? That's how it works. It's not that they start flickering. They're dumping less. There's less excited electrons, which means less light being emitted. They're not flickering on and off. Okay? I don't know where that myth came from. Someone thinks they are doing that. Now, that might be true with compact fluorescent lights, but that's not what this is, because they are working on a certain cycle. Although they're emitting light pretty much the same way. You've got a high voltage across the end of a gas tube, and the voltage is causing energy in the electrons, and the electrons are dumping the energy in the form of light and heat. LEDs have very little heat to them. They're doing more light dumping. Anyhow, there's your physics lessons for the day. For some of you, for the year, you're good. You're good. That's enough. I know that. Anyhow, everyone, I'm going to start soldering LEDs. I just thought I'd bring that up because I hear it all the time. I see it on videos all the time. And the people saying that on the videos are dead wrong. There is no flickering of LEDs as the voltage lowers. It just is not happening. What's happening instead is just fewer excitement in the electrons. Okay? You're not getting them as happy, so they're not leaving their women. The positive core. Just one way to look at it. So let me get cutting and soldering and putting resistors on here and fitting them into the body so I can see what this thing looks like lit up. Once I get that done, I got to cut some holes for fiber. I've got 6 strands of fiber that need to get done and strung today. And if I can get all the wiring and the fiber done, the body gets glued together today. Once that body's glued together, we're painting. That's it. The only thing left after that is paint and putting the heat emitting panels or solar panels, whatever you want to call them, on the outside of it. So there is going to be very little left after this once I get this paint done. So let me get going on this. I'll be back in a bit. Again, hope you enjoyed your physics lesson for, well, whatever time period it is. Okay. I'm working on wiring and the fiber for the TIE Fighter. Okay. I learned something recently, and I'm going to go ahead and cut a new piece of this stuff. Although I don't want to. I'm trying to find the piece that I experimented on, but the chances are good it ended up in the Mr. Garbage disposal. I'm not cutting a very long piece. This is the 1.5 millimeter fiber. It's the size fiber I'm using for the engines and the guns. Very stiff stuff. Does not like to bend. Okay? And I'm going to drop the camera down to the light here because it's easy for you guys to see the end of the fiber coming off the light. Now I'm trying to bend it. It doesn't like to bend around that bend. Tight bend. Here's what I discovered. Okay? I was trying to fire polish an end. That's where you come in here and you hold it next to a flame. And you just get the end to flatten out a little bit. It shows light a little bit better. You guys can see that. Okay? But bending it is a pain. But if I take and heat it a little bit, just a little bit, I have to be careful because it will melt pretty quickly. I got a bend in it, and I burned it a little bit to get that bend. Yeah, and it's still transmitting light. Not as well as it once did because I melted it. But if you're careful, Let me cut it and see if I can bend it a little bit better. I need to get a candle to do this right, because I'm trying to hold the fiber and heat it and all sorts of stuff at the same time. I'm melting. Let me get a candle so I can show you guys. Oh, this one came out good. I think you can see that it is still transmitting light just fine, and it's got a pretty good bend in it. Okay, so with the candle work and some care, you can actually bend the fibers quite a bit and still have them transmitting light. I wouldn't take it past a 90-degree bend quickly. Make it gradual. I'm gonna have to do that in this TIE Fighter because the way the fibers are routed, it's too narrow, too tiny. They will not bend on their own. So I'm gonna go downstairs, get a candle, and start working on bending the fibers. I'm going to take some test pieces before I use the ones that I had routed, because these are the ones I want to use for the engine. Here, let me pull this in. Okay, because I like how that looks, and when it's in the body, it looks really good since I painted the end of it red. I'm going to go get a candle, and I'm going to practice this, and I'll show you my end result. All right, but you can bend those with some flame around the direction you need it to bend and get it to work fine. And that's what I got to do real quick, is I got to take this fiber and get it bent around so I can put the cockpit, this thing, into the model, because I can't do it unless those fibers are bent. And once those fibers are bent, I can glue that thing down inside there and get my LEDs in there, and I will be halfway done, because the only fiber that will be left is the fiber for the laser cannons on the bottom of this thing. And that won't be so bad to work with. And I got a practice piece right there to work with that has no paint on it. In fact, I got a couple of practice pieces in here to work with. So let me go get a candle. I'll come back in a bit and show you how my bending works. Oh, I'm walking away, leaving the camera recording.